Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome to our latest and very special episode of QuickBooks Labs. QuickBooks Labs, a fortnightly vlogcast designed to be the place to learn all about the world of QuickBooks and other accounting software. I'm one of your hosts, Simon Patrick, a chartered accountant, owner of an accounting firm called Boffix, a QuickBooks Certified trainer, and we now have fancy new logos to go with it, and the QuickBooks chat on YouTube. And joining me is my co-host, the one and only Ash. Hi, Ash. How's it going?
Excellent, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, my name is Ash Peterson, also QuickBooks trainer. Also have one of those fancy logos as well. very, very pleased to get one. One half of the sort of two people that set up NetTracker, helping businesses track their fixed assets, making those much easier than they were before.
Brilliant. So let's figure out exactly how this works then. So first of all, you are live we are live, and the time is 4 p.m. UK time. So that's the normal time that we go live. Today is a Thursday. Normally we do a Tuesday, and that comes at 10 a.m. US Central Time. So if you listen to this back at a later time, then why not think about joining us live, where you get the opportunity to ask questions. So everyone in the question, or everyone who's live at this moment, has that opportunity to ask questions as we go along. Now we're going to take all those questions at the end, and we've got a fun schedule packed for you. Furthermore, we're now live on podcasting services around the globe, so feel free to subscribe on the podcasting service of choice. Ash, have you got the agenda for today's show?
So, Aaron, I think we're going to take a look at the latest winter release in QuickBooks Online. So that will be UK, and then we're going to have a look back at what we've had new over the sort of about last 6 to 12 months. New releases, and we'll just have a quick sort of refresh on some of those and see which we like more than others, maybe. And I'll have my couple of little tips. Sort of my tip of the week. I might be able to squeeze in two. I've got one at the moment. I might get another one off the back of my head. And then if any questions come through, we'll answer those questions. I don't really do any NetTracker advertising as such. I'm pushing it too far. But if we have a chance, then I'll talk about some latest releases that we have within that software as well. So I'll push it back over to you then, Aaron.
Yeah, it sounds like we should do. And also, I think a bit of a Christmas special if we might get two in as well. I mean, that's just really treating the audience to a special then. All right then. So we have been announced the winter product release. So if you remember, within QuickBooks, we have been getting regular product releases. So funnily enough, they're spring, summer, and autumn. And now we have our winter product release for 2020. Now, within that winter product release, I'm going to put it up on screen. We've been the following announced. Now, we're going to be completely honest here. This is a much smaller product release than we've had throughout the year. And we're going to look back at what we've had in the year to remind us and understand exactly what 2020 has been like. But for now, let's concentrate on what is around the corner. Now, when it comes to the products here, it is a little bit less and a little bit freeing compared to the other particular periods that we've had, but you can kind of let QuickBooks off on that one. They have brought up some really great initiatives in this year. Again, we'll have a look in a moment. So what have we got to look forward to in the winter product release? Well, they're bringing back, or they're pushing forward even more, this whole self-assessment area. So if you remember back in the last product release, and we've also covered it on this podcast as well, is the ability that you can now look at your self-assessment while in the product. So this is while in QuickBooks Online. Previously to that, the only way for you to do any form of self-assessment in terms of estimation or submission was actually being able to put it through on the QuickBooks Self-Employed piece of software. But now they've brought this to the main version of QuickBooks Online, and it gives us an opportunity to not only, and I think the most important thing, but to estimate your self-assessment going forward, but also they're going to give you the opportunity to file your tax return as well. And that's a really powerful thing, and that could be something that a lot of people are going to use. They have also updated it over the last couple of weeks, where they've made that experience a little bit more useful for you as a user. So previously it was pretty much just looking at the next tax year, or sorry, the current tax year, and it was looking at that as an estimate. They've made it now that you're able to look backwards a year and be able to see that as an estimate as well. So the one that's due 31st of January, which is the 1920 tax year, you can actually now generate within this particular area of QuickBooks, and it gives you an opportunity to have a look and see what that's going to be. That's really powerful. We want that, and I think that's going to be something that's going to be useful for clients going forward. Ash, have you had a play around with the self-assessment side? Yeah, I know last time you hadn't, but I'm just wondering if you've had a chance to have a look at it or not.
I haven't had a good chance to play around with that yet, but that sounds really good, being able to look back as well as forward. One thing I was going to ask there is that when we spoke about using self-assessment before, it was all about the data, that was coming through in QuickBooks. Is there an ability to put in any additional stuff? So if someone has actually been working, through PAYE through another business, are they able to put that information on within that QuickBooks tax return, so they can get the total sort of return figure in there?
Yeah, it's still lacking in the QuickBooks Online one, and it's a shame because that feature is available in the QuickBooks Self-Employed. So, kind of when I was giving feedback on it, one of the things I said that we understand it was never going to, or no product's ever going to come out with everything that's ever needed on it. It's always going to be built on time. But I think bare minimum should really be parity with existing software, especially your own existing software. So the fact that QuickBooks Self-Employed has that functionality, your expectation is that QuickBooks Self-Employed can do one thing. Why can't QuickBooks Online do the other? So yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that functionality now. For estimates, we as a firm, we've been being a bit, savvy about it, and we've been posting basically an extra charge within the P&L that takes away your basic allowance, and putting that in as like a journal entry, if you like, that will reverse if we ever need to actually file anything or anything. But it is, that's not ideal, and that's not what I'd expect many people to do. So yeah, there's obviously workarounds, but at this moment in time, it's still lacking those features, which is a shame.
Yeah, that's a good idea with the sort of little reverse and journal adjustment. So it's not going to bring through sort of dividends or anything like that either, then I'm guessing. So it's purely really just it's just a self-employed tax, basically.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that point there about dividends and stuff, that really will be hopefully the next stage, because that's when I think this will become really useful for people. Most people take the advice of the accountant, and and they're a limited company, and that's their sole trade, the sole form of income is that limited company. So somehow being able to interact with dividends, I think that would be really, really useful. But at the moment, it doesn't do that.
Cool.
Brilliant. Okay, so that is the self-assessment. Now, the reason they put it on here is about, like I said, that enhancement to it. So they're just really reminding you and telling you enhancements are coming. Next one is payments. So one of the things they've brought through on the payment side of thing is they've made this payment or sales overview section. That's what they're talking about on this right-hand side over here. So they're giving us an opportunity when you first log into QuickBooks, or every time you log into QuickBooks, you'll notice on your sales side now you'll have what's called an overview tab. And within that overview tab, it will give you the opportunity to have a look and see what's going on with your sales. And I think that's quite a nice little comfort life sort of update there. That's going to give us an opportunity to be able to make sure that clients are, first of all, aware of all the options of receiving payments and be able to set up recurring invoices and all that sort of stuff. So it's more about making sure they know exactly what the capability of the software is. I think something like that's quite a useful way of bringing it in. So I'm quite impressed or quite like that idea, and I can only assume that's going to be something that's going to start coming up on other ones. And then they're pushing again the PayPal one. I get a bit confused about this as bringing it up as a new product update, and they keep bringing it up. You'll see this happens on every quarter, but effectively they're saying that there is there's a special offer, if you like, for the direct debit Go cardless this time round, where we can have an opportunity to save on some fees. So yeah, it's more of a promotional than a new feature, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I guess sometimes people, especially if they're fairly new to QuickBooks, they don't realise all of the things that it can do, and if they're, just getting another way of just reminding people, isn't it? So just don't forget you can use this feature. So I get it, why they might want to put it there.
Yeah, and it is a brilliant. I mean, our practice runs off that solution. So without it, we would, it saves us countless hours a month with it. So I completely get it why they would want to promote it. So the next one, payroll. So they're talking about how Workforce has gone live. Now, Workforce, I'm not 100% sure because I'm not being able to play around with it properly, but I think that is just their new name for the employee portal. And the employee portal on the advanced version of QuickBooks was brilliant. So the fact that they're bringing that to the normal version of the payroll, what's the actual term for the non-advanced version? Is it just
QuickBooks Payroll?
Is it just QuickBooks Payroll?
Yeah.
So, and then they've also talked about how they've got a update to the portal as well, where in the advanced payroll, you can now have multiple portals. So you could have portals with different departments and being able to put different elements in like that. So I think it's just making it more user friendly, isn't it, and giving them the opportunity to jump in. And now one of the things they've also promoted is the ability to quickly migrate from Sage Payroll to QuickBooks Payroll. So that could be useful if you're looking to move over, especially when the fact that we're fastly coming towards the beginning of a new tax year. So, I mean, any thoughts on that one, Ash? It's a bit of a
one of the in there, people that I think considering switching their payroll, because before, unless you were using, PaySuite, the old version of QuickBooks Payroll, that migrated very easily. Well, I found that it did when I converted mine across. But anyone that was using Sage Payroll, for example, it was a lot more work involved. So having that there is going to save people a lot of time. I need to have a look at the portal for every team. I mean, I think we're going to have some considerably sort of large businesses that do need a different portal for, all of their sort of, teams, departments, if you like. I suppose I get it. It can make it a little bit easier if you've got the marketing department and someone's responsible for all of the wages just for the marketing team and the expenses for the marketing team, and they might want a separate portal. But I did think that before anyway, depending on how you'd sort of set it up, you could pretty much, invite someone and they would only be able to see somebody within their team.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not quite sure on the difference. It'd be difficult for me to test it without actually, creating it from scratch. I may have, if I get a spare 2 or 3 hours, I may have a play around with it.
I mean, the portal's always been that was the reason we moved to QuickBooks Payroll. I mean, we had issues, and mainly that was to do with the migration. So the fact that there's now a migration solution makes it even better for people. But we moved purely because of that portal. The idea that we could save time on our HR and not having to worry about people having to book time in and things like that. So I definitely do see there is a kind of a reason for it, and I do see that there is going to be a benefit to people using that portal. But yeah, it'll be great to see what the actual extra functionality is in there, because it is a really useful feature, having that idea. And I think the best part that we've ever found of it is when you take on a new employee. So as soon as you've taken on a new employee, you just send them a link basically, and they go and fill in all their payroll details for you, instead of having that old-fashioned way of having to send a form. They send the form back, you put that form onto the system, etc., etc. They just log in and they just put it all there. So that is definitely for me kind of the way to kind of get big benefit out of a payroll solution.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next new section is the VAT side of things. And basically what they've done here is they've just made you aware that they're ready for all the changes. So the first one is the PVA, so the Brexit transition. So basically what's happening here, that if you are involved in any imports from the EU, you may notice, or you may have seen lots of emails going around how things are changing. Now, typically the change there is all positive. It's all about the fact that from a cash flow point of view, you're going to be better off. But what happens is, as long as you comply by all the rules and regulations and you fill it, all the forms incorrectly, etc., then instead of having to pay the import VAT on the fact that when the goods are released, so normally you have to pay your import duty to release the goods into UK, instead of having to pay that import VAT for you to then claim it back, or import VAT, should I say, for you to claim that back on a future VAT return, basically you'll be given a statement, or you'll have the ability to download a statement which will tell you what import VAT you have suffered, and you don't have to pay for it at the time of bringing it through. So that's a great saving there for small businesses or any type of business there, in terms of they don't have to pay it to claim it back. The complication, though, is that you've still got to have a requirement to put it on your VAT return. If you don't put it on your VAT return, you're going to get yourself into trouble in terms of the checks and everything else that comes with it. So to help with that, QuickBooks has created these new codes, PVA. It's 20% and there's 0%. And the idea then is it gives you an opportunity as a client to be able to put those codes in. I did a video on this. It's not super straightforward. Actually, I'm sure you've seen this plenty of times, but it's all about that whole having to post a zero rated or a zero transaction where you're still interacting with VAT. So it's VAT on and then no VAT off and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's not brilliant. It's not going to be perfectly straightforward at the very beginning. But rest assured, it's only a monthly statement, and that monthly statement will include all of your import duty on there. So once you got into the habit of doing that first month, it's going to be a case of basically copy and pasting that transaction each and every month to be able to stay compliant on it. And then the final bit.
Oh, sorry, a quick question on that. So this import PVA code that we're using there, is this just for the EU or ex-EU that will be countries, or what about the countries that people are importing stuff from China or Australia? Is that still how it's done now, or will this fall under this PVA as well?
Yeah, I must admit I was confused when I first saw the announcement, but it is, from what I can tell, it is just for the EU countries. So it's kind of like a middle ground, if you like, where you're still not going to lose out as you would have done before, but now there's going to be that ability to have that agreement where we don't have to pay it. And I think it's just part of the whole government trying to soften the blow on the transition to Brexit. So instead of kind of forcing that extra fees onto a business and then they claim it back, it's so that they don't have to worry about that, is what I can tell from the research. But yeah, at the moment it's only on the EU transactions going forward on it. So, but you should. The good thing about this is the statement that you get. We're not seeing what the statement looks like yet, but the statement you get should just have all the answers on there for us to then be able to put into QuickBooks. So literally, it's waiting for that statement to come, and then we just got to put that statement onto QuickBooks itself.
Cool, makes sense.
So that does make life easier in that respect. And then just the final one is MTD. From April onwards, there won't be any other way of filing a VAT return other than MTD. So at the moment, if you're under the VAT threshold and choosing not to convert to MTD, then currently you're able to file the old way, if you like, through QuickBooks. That will be no more soon. So you'll only have the option to file by MTD. So just being aware of that. I know myself, Ash, and I don't know how you feel about this. When QuickBooks turn off the ability for us to opt in and opt out of MTD, we're going to lose some functionality as accountants, aren't we, and business advisors. So I don't know how QuickBooks are going to give us that functionality back. The idea where we could just mark a period as filed and jumping in and out and stuff like that. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what QuickBooks gives us in return, if you like.
Yes, I suppose. When they turn on the VAT, I suppose. I guess what we really need is to be able to switch off MTD, even though there's no other way of actually filing it to HMRC. So if that button's still there, then we'd still have the ability of marking a return as filed, because like you said, really, if you'd set up a historic business coming through from another software, you might need to go through half a dozen returns to try to get things to marry up what they had in their old records, because I've done that before. Things don't look right, so I've just started a year back and just started to produce the manual VAT returns to see if they look similar to what they've already filed, and hopefully they're not too far apart. So we still do need to have that function, or else it could just creates extra work otherwise.
Yeah, agreed. But I can't imagine why they'd have that button there if MTD is not around. That's my worry is they just take it away from us and they're like, oh, well, you don't need it anymore. No one uses it. But yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
The clever, or hopefully they just leave it switched on, or at least it's on by default, but it gives us an opportunity to switch off. Maybe I don't know how the functionality will work there. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one. And because I use that all the time, that I'm constantly having to turn it off to then make an adjustment to turn it back on again. It's kind of like a cheat sheet that's just going to be taken away from us, and we've just got to learn to deal with it another way, maybe. But yeah, we'll have to adapt as always. And then finally, as accountants, I'll skip the first one because I'll come back to that one. But they do talk about how less stress this January. So they're going to be, because we've got our self-assessment module within QuickBooks, January is going to be better than it's ever been before for us. Obviously, that's definitely not going to be true this year in 2020 or 2021 by the time it finishes. But yeah, I mean, it's great that it's there. Already our clients are using it as a way of just estimating next year's. Obviously, for the previous year, it was too little too late for them. For the 31st of January, we would be looking to do that tax return anytime now anyway. But it is definitely going to be useful, especially, given how tight money is at the moment. Just having that estimate is brilliant. And then it gives us the opportunity to hours of manual, the marketing hub. So they're bringing out a brand new marketing hub in January, middle of January, which I thought timing wise was wonderful. But yeah, brand new marketing hub, and they're actually deleting or destroying. They're destroying the old marketing hub. So I don't know if you ever used it, Ash, but it was a way of being able to send out basically mailers and stuff. It was all branded and everything else. So that's gone completely, and they're going to be giving us something a bit different in replacement for it. And then the big one, and actually got to have a sneak peek of this and have a look at exactly what it looks like. But Work Papers is coming to QuickBooks Online for accountants. So it looks really, really good. There's definitely some bits on there that I came back kind of straight away going, oh, that's not quite how we would do as accountants. But the concept is really good. So, as a first look at it, I'm really excited for it. But the idea is that it gives us an opportunity right in the product to be able to add working papers directly there. And it has got some really clever bits where it's going to kind of look at the papers, if you like, or the books as it is now. And then you can compare them to your working papers and so on and so forth. So, it's a great little idea. Saves you having to use Excel and stuff like that is the idea. So we'll see how it comes. And really, it's just an extension of the month-end review, which we already know has been a great success.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I think, crikey, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago. I put forward that idea to somebody who do it. It's only taken them 5 years to actually build it.
Maybe that's how many ideas they had, and they've just got to yours now.
But for some time, I've sort of built my own work papers using the management reports.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've probably done the same by create a custom report and then build it into your management pack. That has been my workaround to have my own work papers in QuickBooks without needing to use anything else. But so that I can see that should work quite well. Almost like it's just a report extension, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to talk about them too much, but Xero already offer that solution. So it is kind of one of those that it had to have come at some point. Let's just hope they take feedback on board on that one, because ideally they want it. For me, the way this will work is if it makes it so I'm getting rid of my Excel spreadsheet completely. And their first beta of it is, well, here's an area you can upload your Excel spreadsheet. And if that's all that's going to be, it won't really make any kind of benefit to us. So we'll see what happens. And for soon as it comes live, we'll definitely be talking about on this show. And if you keep an eye on both our YouTube channels, I'm sure we'll cover them at some point. Okay, so that's looking forward. But I thought it'd be nice quickly to look backwards. Now we're just going to fly through these because I've got a bit of an exercise to do at the end with Ash. But just as a reminder, let's quickly look at what Spring gave us. Well, Spring gave us the introduction of cash flow. So like it or love it, that was when that came through. Spring also gave us the ability for us to do chase payments automatically, which I think everyone forgot about the day it was announced. It was one of those forgotten updates. We had the automation of coming through where we had the receipt scanner as well. So we snapped receipts and we were able to upload them into QuickBooks. That was our spring release. And they started to talk about bank transactions in real time as well, which I'm still not finding to be that widely adopted at the moment. From all my clients, I can't tell to see if I've got many that's actually done that. Certainly on my clients or my own businesses, none of them are real time yet, which is a shame.
No, I'm the same.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because that will be a good addition. From a payroll point of view, they started talking about how pensions was integrated in spring, and they talked about managed CIS as well. And then spring was also their big push for CIS and the fact that CIS was having some extra functionality. And then the accountant side of things, it was starting to talk about the bookkeeping review and this measure your efficiency element of here, which never made the light of day, unfortunately, but I'm hoping that comes soon because that was that whole looking at it from a score point of view. So that was spring. Also, that they didn't, for some reason, I don't know why they've not released it in this particular here, but also in spring, they released the import journals as well. So the ability for us to import journals and import other parts into QuickBooks. That was a nice little update. Then we move on to the summer release. Again, they were talking about cash flow and how cash flow is basically evolving. There was some extra bits on there. It went from just being iOS to web at that point. So there was some extra features that were brought into there as well. And they were talking about how that real-time cash flow was more were connected with real-time cash flow at that point. But again, still not seeing one that's come through yet. So yeah, we'll sure it's going through. Then in summer as well, we had iZettle as well. So iZettle was released in that particular period. So remember, iZettle was that little EPOS solution when basically it meant from a physical cash point of view and a physical card point of view, gave you a way to integrate with QuickBooks. So you could take payments while on the fly, put them all into your system, and they will automatically be updated into QuickBooks for you. So that was a great enhancement in summer. Automation wise, they updated the receipt capture and they integrated bills in there as well, and they gave us the opportunity to email in invoices. Payroll, they started talking about how we were getting some extra features in the standard payroll, in the normal payroll, so automatic tax updates and employee portal, and also new pension automations as well. We already had them in the advance, but it was just they're bringing that functionality to the normal payroll, the standard payroll. Talking more against CIS yet again, and then from an accountant's point of view, streamlined month end, and then they started to talk about the reporting and how reporting was going to get that update. The update that came was community reports, wasn't it? Which, yeah, we'll discuss later. Autumn product release, so final one of the year, other than the winter one we just talked about. We talked about that income tax and how it was just being introduced into the main payroll, main solution. Payroll, exactly what I've talked about again, basically telling you it was all released and all ready to go. They talked about cash flow, but they also talked and introduced tagging as well. And I really like tagging. We spoke about this before. Great introduction there, a way of getting discoverability into QuickBooks. So you can tag any transaction in QuickBooks and then be able to find it again. Really useful if you want, say, an accountant or your business advisor to review a transaction for you. Just put in the tag, please review, something like that, and they'll be able to easily find it for yourselves. Great. And then autumn one, they told you there's even more connections that are now on the real time. So we're up to 49 now. Again, I've not seen one of them yet, but there are 49 businesses out there that do real time. There was PayPal special offer. So they were talking about how to try and get you on board with the PayPal Pay Now. There was a special on PayPal, £100 off fees. Now it's on to go cardless. And they did announce as well on the QuickBooks Self-Employed, they were going to give you that functionality in there. So that was a great one. I know a lot of my clients are quite excited about that. And then finally, in autumn, we had month-end review was now open and ready to be seen. There was the release of the Performance Center, if you remember. So that was the ability to get reports that were more user-friendly and be able to have more use of them. And then they talked about how you could get mileage tracker. So we've had a really good year, in my opinion. I think one of the strongest ones I can remember for a long time in terms of new features and new functionality. And Ash, I want to play a little game with you. we're going to rank all of those I've just gone through and decide how good they were in terms of the release this year. So in here is a little chart, and down here are the ones we've got. We don't need to go through all of them, but let's go through the most important ones here. And we're going to decide if they are game changer, great, meh, poor, or just not yet available.
Okay.
All right, so the first one, and this one will straight away divide our topic, I can tell you for a fact. The first one was the Calculate broadcast. So Ash, you decide first of all where it's going to go, and then I'll argue.
Nah.
You're saying meh, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, now, and I understand why, because from your point of view, it was about the fact that it kind of came but was half-baked, wasn't it?
A little bit, yeah. It's a bit too basic for what I would need.
Yeah, completely, and I completely understand that. The one thing that I will argue that, because to me, I would have definitely put it up here, but I'm kind of gonna go with the middle ground here, and I think for me, the reason it was so good was just the timing of it, the fact that we had it during everything that was going on. So we literally use this all the time when it comes to, well, how's furlough going to affect us? What's going to happen with the bounce back loan? You know, those sort of game changing elements that have happened to us over the last couple of years. So yeah, for us, we've definitely been using it as a bit of a game changer. So I think, you know, for completeness sake, we'll stick it there.
Okay.
Now, I don't know anyone's ever used this, but one of the other updated features of 2020 was the ability for us now to have reminders on invoices that go out. So we can have automatic reminders set. Now, did you ever use this? Have you known anyone who's ever used it?
The thing with this, Aaron, is that it came out, but it was some sort of drip release, because I kept hearing about it. Every time I tried to find it, I thought I might be being mad here because I cannot find it anywhere. And then literally a month ago, I found it in my files and a couple of others. So I actually think this is pretty good. So I'm going to go with this. It's a great feature. Now, it's pretty basic, because you can set three reminders. You can have it to go out, either one day before, 7 days after, and then 10 days after. But the problem is the text is the same for every single reminder. So you whatever you set as the basic default text, it will be the same on all three. So you've got to just get it worded appropriately. But I think it's a pretty good one for people that don't always pay immediately, just to give them a gentle nudge. And you don't have to have 3 reminders. You could set it for 1, but set it to 1, 2, or 3. I like it. As a freebie, it's pretty good.
Yeah, completely. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I like it. My problem with this one, and I think it's just my kind of maybe cynicalism on it, is just that it's only as good as your bookkeeping is. And even us as accountants, we are so scared of turning this feature on, because what we don't want to do is, the system goes out and claims that so-and-so is not paid. It's just because we've not updated the software in the last 2 days or whatever it's going to be. Do you know what I mean? There's that disconnect where, unless you're, if they pay any other way than the payment systems that are built directly into QuickBooks, and you're going to have that manual interaction. Otherwise, you may end up inadvertently chasing something that's not actually outstanding. So yeah, I love the idea of it, but even we've not turned it on to have a play around with yet, because we're scared of any comeback on it. But yeah, no, the idea of it for a small business who are just relying on QuickBooks tools, I think it's going to be brilliant for them, isn't it?
Yeah. So for us, every single one of our invoices are paid by card automatically, and if that's not paid, then we have got our other automation reminders anyway, but we've got this one set to go out sort of 10 days after. So they'll go out from our own software as a reminder, and then 10 days after, QuickBooks will send one as well. Yeah. So so for us, that works well.
So for us, it's like 95% of our clients are on Go Cardless, absolutely fine. The ones who aren't are the ones that would talk about maybe a standing order or something like that. So they're obviously in financial trouble. So it's just, I think we've got to figure out a way for controls for that to work. Next one though, receipt capture. How are you going to say about the receipt? Have you used it at all? Have you?
Oh yeah. So I'm going to put that. Is it a game changer? Well, I can't really say it's a game changer because
Too lofty.
yeah, but I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely great because again, there's a few things that. One of the businesses that I help, we've been using other software for data capture for years, but we're not able to switch that over fully because they use purchase orders and there's links. There's no purchase order link in that, so it can't be used.
Yeah, but, makes sense.
But for other things, it's really good.
No, I agree. I think, yes, I don't think it replaces auto entry or receipt bank or anything like that. I think you're still going to be using those solutions if you're already using them. But as an alternative, and also if you don't use any of them, it is completely and utterly brilliant to use. It's not perfect. There's still some things it needs to do, and there's still some things it needs to improve on. But yeah, we as a firm have fully got behind kind of using it as an option for us to think, actually, do we need to have auto entry and receipt bank on every single client? Are there other clients that we don't need to? And we're kind of having those conversations now to see what's best for the client. So yeah, I absolutely love it. What about the ability to import journal entries?
It's a game changer, Aaron. Game changer.
Absolutely no arguments there, is there?
Yeah. It was way overdue.
Yeah.
So I use it quite a bit.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, and it's for the simpler tasks, isn't it? But it just makes our life so much easier. We've got a template where we can put in our director salaries if they're not on recurring entry, something as simple as that. And before, for us to go through putting those 12 entries on would have taken X amount of time. Now it can be done in a couple of seconds just by pressing the upload button. It's done, isn't it? It's just it's a game changer, like I said. What about the CIS improvements or enhancement, should I say? Where are you feeling on them this year? Because we've had a lot, in fairness to them.
I think I'll put it with the great. It's a great for me. It's a great to be able to file online. Is a great improvement. I think that was the main thing. And there was a couple of other addition in that, and there wasn't there to be able to bring through some of the payroll information or to
the integration.
The CIS suffered will go into the payroll information. But I don't think I could call it a game changer.
You can't call it a game changer.
No, I don't think I could call the CIS feature a game changer. No, I couldn't. Not for me anyway.
Okay, fair play. And to be fair, I was kind of stuck between the mare and the great on this one, and I think you're right. I think it is a great. I think there are enough. I think I'm being overly critical of the teething problems it had. I think that's my issue. I think now it works a treat, and if we kind of look at it as of today in isolation of what happened in the past, I think it's great. It does what it needs to do, doesn't it? So all good there. What about the iZettle integration? Came out of nowhere, to be fair, because we know when PayPal or took over or bought iZettle that there was hopefully going to be some sort of extra incentive there. But the fact that there was an actual partnership, what do you think of that one?
It's difficult for me for this one, Aaron, because I don't really have any clients that I could really associate. Say, okay, you need to use this, and so I wouldn't have had any feedback from them. So I might have to leave this one sort of more on your shoulders. So I think it's a pretty any app that saves any time is always good, or any addition is always good in my mind. But how good, I'm not sure. So how's your experience been with this?
Well, for me, it was game changer. The only thing, and the reason for that is it's self-explanatory, isn't it? It's that idea that you can get a client, they can just buy, get an iPad or their phone or whatever it's going to be, buy a really cheap piece of equipment, 30 quid, 20 quid, whatever the price point at the time is. And then they've got an ability to be able to take any card payment in the world, any place. And as soon as they take that card payment, it's just going to go into your QuickBooks. And that's great. And that is an absolute game changer. The fact it's integrated, it's getting people more kind of, they're more aware of it. And it's getting that awareness out there of how useful and how easy it is to do. My only issue I have at the moment is, as a QuickBooks focused firm, we're now pushing a lot of people towards iZettle because of that tight integration, and because that's there, and because it's so good, the fact that they work. But actually Square and SumUp and all the others that are there are equally as good, and in some circumstances are better for certain clients. It's like everything, there's always going to be particular industries are better suited from particular software. And I think that's the only thing that kind of it gives me a bit of an issue, is because we're exclusively only got really iZettle that's brilliantly integrated. The rest can be integrated, but you kind of have to play around with it, and you have to jump through hoops, and you have to kind of get things working, all this and the other. We're kind of pushing people to iZettle maybe more than we should in some circumstances, or at least telling them the benefits of it, and they're going, yeah, let's go with iZettle. Whereas normally we'd be able to kind of have that conversation. So I was really happy when it came through, but I think that's just that one negative, is the fact that there are others out there, and we've just got to be aware of that. The next one, Performance Center.
So Performance Center, I'm not a really good player with this, but this was, I think this is definitely, we've got a lot on the great line. I've always feel I feel guilty about sort of saying it's on the great. But I think I'm going to have to put it on the great, because it's a great feature to have. If you have the time to, develop it, develop some of the reports. Does it change your life? No, I can't say that's why it can't go into the game changer for me.
Yeah,
because it's not life changing.
I get that. The only thing I don't get about this is it's replaced the it wasn't called, it was the overview tab. Can you remember the overview tab that we had for literally 6 months?
Yes. Oh, crikey! It's actually gone. Surprised I hadn't actually noticed.
Yeah, so they got rid of that. So, or whatever it's called now. It wasn't the overview tab. It was the one next to it, wasn't it? It was whatever it was called, and they got rid of it in favour of Performance tab. And I love Performance, and I think it's a good idea in terms of anything to make it so that we can get data to clients that are more benefit and that they can understand is definitely up on my point. But what I don't get is why we also lost that other functionality, because I really like that that other functionality. It was because what they weren't just doing was comparing it to your own clients. They were looking at others, weren't they? They were trying to kind of bring it in. Business performance, that's what it's called. And the idea of business performance was they were trying to bring it in so that it was comparing against trends and having a look at other people in your industry and stuff like that. And we seem to have lost that, which is a shame. So yeah, I think that's the only thing for me that it's a slight negative on it. But I agree. I think it's definitely a great. What about the change of the bank? So we've had our bank updated. We've got these new functionalities in there, new terminology. Where does that go for you?
Oh, well, I suppose it's it's a bit of a middle thing, really. There's some nice things in there, but I wouldn't jump up and down and say, hallelujah, I've been waiting for that bank. I've been waiting for that bank screen to change for so long that I feel so much better about it. Yeah, it's great. So I think I'm going to put it middle.
Now, be honest though, is that because of all the work it created for you for updating workbooks and updating videos? for the QuickBooks training courses, I suppose there was a few headaches that it did cause. Suddenly it's dropping down the
with some people having the new version and some people not for some time.
It was a nice one.
There's some neat things in there. Don't get me wrong. Where you can search for the transaction. You've got the extra search, the extra filtering options, and the grouping options. They're really good. They are really good. So it almost straddles that line, if it was possible, between Mayor and Great, somewhere in the in that middle.
I can't argue with that one. I mean, I absolutely love the grouping feature. I think that's brilliant. That's going to save so much time. And I think the new batch, the way of tackling batch is so much better. Like, it's a quality of life improvement, isn't it? We could never have said before that the old way was sluggish, but I couldn't go back to the old way of doing it now. So yeah, I do get that, and I get that's a good improvement. So yeah.
All I want now you're saying that, Aaron, you're almost swinging me into the great area. You say,
we get the final say on that one.
It is pretty good. I guess it makes it a lot easier for the new user.
Yeah.
So if you've been using
isn't it?
Yeah, for when you've been using it for a few years, you just get used to it. You get in the flow, don't you? You say, okay, I'm going to tick all these boxes and bosh, away you go. If you're only just starting to use it, then it takes you a bit longer. But now through that makes it quicker. So
just had an upgrade.
Yeah.
Last few then. So this one here's tagging. Where does tagging sit for you?
So tagging for me is not something that I would normally use a lot, but when it was first sort of introduced to us, if you remember, Aaron, it was sort of a bit undersold, wasn't it? Because the way that it was explained to begin with for people that maybe don't know how to do their bookkeeping, and I'm thinking, what's the point in using this tag? I thought that's what QuickBooks is for, to do the bookkeeping, not to create another bookkeeping code. But as you had mentioned earlier, when you went through the different sort of scenarios of using these tags, where just to sort of say, okay, I'll create a little tag code for, review or whatever it is, and to be able to pop those transactions into a little bucket that says, can you take a look at these? Is a really good idea. So, again, I think it's going to, for me, it might have to go on the great. If I was in practice, it might even go to the game changer. Are you thinking game changer, Aaron, for you?
I am myself, but I'm waiting for you to.
I think I might allow you to put it on the game changer line, because if I don't really have any clients now. I think I've just got one big sort of one main business that I help in addition to my own. But if I had to ask lots of clients to review some of their transactions, and I were able to use tags and then automate them with different reports and send them out, then I think that would be a game changer on the amount of time I'd have to spend on it. So, I think tags could be a game changer.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to upgrade it on that one. I know we're looking quite biased here in terms of the features that have come through and everything else, but this has been one of those where, like you just said, we were originally sold it, and I think everyone went, what, why? But now we've started to dig deep into it. Now we've looked at it, and now we've kind of got to used to it. We can't use QuickBooks without it now. Like, it is just that simple way of just going, right, when we go into review anything now, the first thing we do is we go to that tag section, and we just see, how's the client put anything that they're unsure of, that sort of thing. And that is so important when you're working with clients to have that kind of that ability to be able to find stuff. So as a discoverability tool, it's amazing. Income tax coming into QuickBooks Online.
So do you mean in its current state?
Yeah.
So in its current state, I might have to downgrade it to a. I don't think it's poor. I think it might be a bit of a meh, because of you. It's purely almost like self-employed tax, isn't it? So you can't put any additional income on there. You can't put your dividends on there. So you're not going to be able to calculate, for a lot of businesses that I used to help anyway. I would not be able to calculate true income tax on that tool. I'd have to use something else because of the dividends, because of the PAYE element on there as well. So that's why it has, for me, would have to fall in there. I don't know how you're feeling on that, Aaron.
Yeah, so in practice or in principle, it should be a game changer. It really should. And I know there's a lot of people out there, accountants this is, that are skeptical of it because they kind of see it as a bit of a tread on their toes sort of ideas and all that sort of politics we could go into. But for me, I love the idea of giving clients the ability to be able to see what their tax return can do. And I don't know if you've ever used the software, but there's that Free Agent, the one that West acquired, and that's what they're doing really well, is they've got that ability to tell people what their tax position should be. Now, it's all going to be based on how good the data is in, and that's always going to be an argument. There's always going to be that kind of element of, well, if they've not got the data in right, it's no use. But for clients who have got the data in right and they have got everything in the right place, then having that ability to see what their tax position is at any point, I really, really, really like the idea of. But yeah, I've got to agree. It's a shame. If it came out just at least feature parity to what was on QuickBooks Self-Employed, definitely a great, possibly a game changer at that point. But so many times we've had to just turn around and say we can't use it. We do use it for the clients who need it, and we will keep an eye on it and everything else. But there's just other clients where we've tried to work around, it's just not worked. So yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, it's room for improvement, and yeah, we'll hopefully see it get improved over time. And the final one, month-end review. Where do you see that one sitting?
Oh, well, I think it's got to be a game changer, mate, because, again, it's not something I need to use a lot myself, apart from sort of the one business that I help, and I haven't had a chance to sort of set it all up properly. But, that ability to sort of tweak the reports, to choose what things you're going to edit, to choose what you're going to reconcile, and have those reminders. There are some extra things that probably are needed in there. But even as its current state, it's pretty good. It is really good. So,
I couldn't agree more. It's brilliant, isn't it? And I think there's just room for improvement there. But as a starting point, it's changed the game. It has given us that ability to go in and just look at the data. And when we're so reliant now on the cash flow forecast and the self-employed part of it and all that sort of stuff we're talking about, then we need to be confident on the data as well. So yeah, it's going to be one of those things where hopefully it's just continued to improve, make it even better. And I still feel an argument there that there's an opportunity for you to be able to pass it to the client to do at some point as well, because one thing I really like is that almost checklist of do this journal, do that journal, do this journal. So we spoke about it, those new Brexit adjustments that need to come through. So the fact you're going to have to do that PVA adjustment each and every month, having that as a part of a checklist on the month-end review for your client to do could actually be really useful to them. So they'll be able to go through, tick the box to say it's done, click a link, it takes them to the journal they need to complete. I think that's going to be something that might be quite useful. So yeah, future's bright, I think, on that one. And I think that's, we'll leave it as game changer. So with that then, I think we'll probably say that's not a bad year, really, would you say? I mean, 2020.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I mean, it's probably the most amount of updates I've seen come through into QuickBooks since I've been involved with doing the think, which I think since I started training was that 2014. There was things that would come through, but not as many, and not with so much sort of impact. And I think most of the changes before were just sort of maybe just changes in the way a screen looked, but not so much as the whole, functionality.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, everything else in 2020 is unremarkable and we don't really want to care about, but actually the QuickBooks side of things not been too bad, has it? So hopefully it continues, and it'll be interesting to kind of compare this to next year as well. Is can they keep that sort of momentum? It doesn't, that's a lot to ask, isn't it, for those sort of features to come in that are that impactful. It's kind of what you kind of struggle to think what else can they bring in that's going to or that sort of pace going forward. So it'd be interesting to see, won't it?
Absolutely. I think there was a question from Charlie I just spotted about, I think it was about our very first game changer. It was the journal entries, wasn't it?
Yes, journal entries. So importing journal entries and importing sales invoices, sales receipts and bills, isn't it, that they brought in?
Yeah. But the journal entries, yeah, it's really handy.
Journal.
Really handy.
Yeah.
I think we've got time for my very quick tip of the week.
Go for it.
Right. Let me bring in my sample company and share.
Or should we save tip of the week and you do your net tracker announcement?
No, we can do that another day. We'll wait until wait until that's been released. The updates have been released and they're working, just in case anything goes wrong over the weekend. So let me share my screen. Share screen. Choose the right one.
Yeah, bring that on now.
All right, okie dokie. So, a little tip here: if you're, if I'm actually looking at my customers, so earlier on, I switched on billable expenses, and I thought I'd created actually a billable expense. So let me just double check that it's not disappeared. It could be the age of it. So I've got some expenses in here. 17th of December.
Yep.
So they're not showing actually on this report because it's
365, isn't it?
Yeah, over 365 days. So if I run an unbilled report, so in fact, let me just go to reports. And I run a unbilled charges report. What I should see, so I've got a few unbilled expenses. Now, what can happen is that if you have chosen that feature, track expenses, make them billable, and then some people don't actually use it when they actually create the invoice. They end up thinking, well, no, I've done the estimate, which already includes that. I don't want to add it on top. And then they get left with loads of these unbilled charges that just start racking up. So often they need to switch that feature off if they don't want to use it. But this could also happen if you've done an import from QuickBooks Desktop into QuickBooks Online. You can end up with all of these, again, unbilled charges, and you can actually get rid of them pretty quickly. So if I'm in so I could just be on my dashboard, and just take a note of the address. So when you're in QuickBooks, it's got .com/app, and then the last bit when you're in the dashboard says homepage. I'm going to change the last part of that address to manage billable expense. So all three words, all in one, manage billable expense. Hit return. And then QuickBooks will tell me, hopefully, if I've spelled everything correctly, do I want to tidy up my unbilled expenses? So it's just gone a little bit slow here. Just waiting for it to kick in. There we go. It's time to clean up my unbilled expenses. So what I want to do is choose a date that I want to clean them up to. So I'm actually cleaning them up. I don't want anything there. So I'm going to clean the whole lot up to today's date. And then I'll save that. So any transaction that I've marked as billable will now literally like having the tick box removed from billable. So if I look at one of those last transactions, in fact, I should find if I open it up that the tick box is just taken out. It's just like taking the tick out automatically. I think, yeah, one of those two expenses. So if I open them up, they still remain in place, against the customer, but the billable tick boxes have been removed. So if you've got 1,000 of those, then you can basically take the tick out 1,000 times very quickly. So that's my major tip of the week.
That's huge.
Coming on a 60-second video soon, because I can actually do that in 60 seconds pretty much.
That's brilliant. And do you know why it's hidden behind the URL then? So there's
I have no idea, Aaron, why it's hidden behind the URL and it doesn't appear somewhere else. It's like a hidden button.
Yeah,
It's like an Easter egg that you've been walking around trying to find. And I only happened to come across this because I helped some US trainers 18 months ago, and we were sort of building the advanced course for global, and they mentioned this tip. And I thought, wow, if only I'd known that 6 months ago, because I really needed it then. So yeah, it's a great one for doing a bit of tidying up.
Oh, I love that. I think that's absolutely brilliant tip there. I never even knew that feature was there. So absolutely brilliant. And it's going to be so. I can think back now to all the times I've had to go through one tick in each one of those. So because you don't want to delete them, do you? Because most of the time it's going to relate to other forms of reports and stuff. So if you do your P&L and you look at how much you made per customer and that sort of stuff, then yeah, sometimes you're forced to go through actually unticking them. So that's great bit of advice.
Yeah, the only way I managed to fix it once before was literally creating an invoice to bill them all off, and then create a credit note to just basically bring the customer balance back down to 0.
Wow, yeah, that's a quicker way. Yeah. But then you've got
another way.
Yeah, but I suppose then you've got the VAT transactions in there that never really, and I suppose unless you put no VAT on them, but you've got
no VAT on the invoice. But that's another way of just of sorting that out, because you might find, which I did find once before actually, when after I discovered that little tip, is that I did convert someone from desktop, and they had thousands and thousands of those, and it literally fell over when I tried to do it, because there was
even with the special secret button.
Even with the special secret button, QuickBooks didn't want to play on that particular day. It was like, sad face or something similar. The wheel went round, and then it sort of went round very slowly and stopped. I think so. That's from my memory. But anyway, it works usually. But if you have stacks, then you might have to do some other little things to clear them out.
Love it. All right. Well, I think with that is it for 2020 for QuickBooks Labs, is it not? Ash, when's our next one due?
So our next one, Aaron, we can have a little break over Christmas. Our next one is going to be on the 12th of January, same time. I know we keep saying it. We'll probably send out a survey at some point to see, is this the best time of day for people? Is it the best day of the week? It's a tricky one. In these times, everyone's at home, so it doesn't always really matter what day. One day seems to roll into another these days. I don't know what day of the week it is.
Exactly right. Brilliant. All right. So with that, then, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me, and have a Merry Christmas, Aaron, and everyone else as well.
Definitely. And, if you've got any questions or anything, don't forget the Facebook group. Have a look on there. Put your little questions in there, and we'll answer them on the next show. So with that, then, goodbye, and we will see you in the new year.